Alright guys, so today we're going to be reviewing Hitman 3. And so just right off the bat, before we get started, there are going to be spoilers in this video. So if you care about the story or the levels and don't want to see certain ways to kill targets or just the levels overall and want to get to them yourself, wait and hold off on this video, wait until you get to those levels you haven't played. We'll go through level by level later. If you don't specifically want to see certain levels, you can skip around to that, but throughout the review there are going to be clips and other things throughout the game, so again, if you don't want spoilers, that was your warning. So speaking of spoilers and all of that, let's go ahead and just start off with the story. And I know you're like, what story? Hitman game? Yeah, there's stories in these games. Well, the first two aren't great, especially the first game has a really weak story and just cutscenes as a whole. It starts to pick up in the second game, but the third game, it actually really pays off, right? If all three Hitman games had this level, I don't want to say writing because, you know, you're not going to cry or anything, it's not going to blow your mind, but there is a twist, so we'll give it that. And again, while it's not a crazy story, there is more here than in Hitman 1 and 2 combined, right? There's more characters, there's more dialogue, well, meaningful dialogue, there's more story, there's just more relationships, right? You get backstory on 47 and Diana and all of that stuff. Like I said, it's not gonna blow your mind or anything like that. It's not this new and unique story that you've never seen told before. It's relatively simple. I'm pretty sure Hitman itself has done the same story before, but there is more there, and there's cutscenes to actually enjoy, right? In the earlier Hitman games, they used the still image technique where they kind of just moved still image across the screen and had text over it, and not that that's bad, but that can be your thing, that's cool, but I prefer these types of cutscenes over that. So again, not much to talk about in the story department, but let's go ahead and move on to graphics. And so here's where I'm kind of split with Hitman 3, right? Because there's cutscene graphics and then there's in-game graphics. And typically, the cutscene looks better because it's pre-rendered and all of that stuff and not dynamic and letting you play a character and all of that. But the cutscene typically looks better than the gameplay. Here, obviously, other than character faces and all of that stuff, I highly disagree. The gameplay looks so much better than the cutscenes. And this just might be a personal thing, right? If you watched my first impressions for this, you already heard me complain about this, but one of just those things that bothers me, right, is film grain. Like, it really pisses me off. I don't know why anything has film grain. It never looks good. It's always annoying and distracting. They've been doing this pretty much since early Xbox One PS4 era, where they just put a lot of film grain in pretty much almost every single game that has cutscenes in it. And if you don't know what film grain is, good for you, man. Like, I wish I didn't know what it was and didn't notice it, but it bothers me so much. That is the first thing I do when I open a new game, is go into the settings and turn film grain off. So my problem with Hitman 3, and again, I'm nitpicking, you can't turn off film grain, and it's very annoying. Alright? It's very distracting for at least the first three levels at least. Right? I just entirely had to rewatch cutscenes because I'm just staring at the film grain, and I can't. Okay, I gotta stop ranting about film grain. Alright, I can make a whole video, an hour-long video about film grain and why it's ugly. But let's talk about everything else. So let me give you an example of a cutscene that looks really, really, really good.
How did you know?
Your deal. That kind of power always comes with a price. What's yours?
I think you know. I am sorry. This is a necessary evil.
What have you done?
Ether brand neurotoxin. Transfers by touch. See, Edwards learns by his mistakes, 47. And as you've clearly demonstrated, brute force is futile. It had to be me. It was the only way.
To get this close.
So, kind of like that cutscene demonstrated, there are good-looking cutscenes, but film grain does ruin a lot of them, especially the darker ones. But let's move on from film grain, alright? So, the cutscenes, they're 50-50, alright? There's some good ones, there's some bad ones. Again, it just depends on what you like. The gameplay, however, I did not see a single room, a single character, a single environment, a single weapon that didn't look great, alright? Gameplay, graphics within the gameplay while you're playing the game, which is the majority of what you will be doing. It all looks so good. People are going to say the example I'm about to show you doesn't count. I don't care, I'm showing you anyways.
Always hiding behind the headlines. Was perfection its own justification? Or a willful distraction? A wall built contract by contract to shield you from the uncomfortable truth. You're exactly the tool they bred you to be. Quite a piece of work you are. How could you possibly function on your own? You never even had a name. Until I gave you one.
Alright, but now we've talked about story, we've talked about graphics, both in and out of the cutscene. Now, before we get into the level-by-level game design kind of aspect of it, which is going to be the majority, the big chunk of this video, I just want to talk about a couple of small things really quick, right? Something that doesn't deserve a whole section to itself, but is worth noting. The first thing I want to talk about is the sound. Now, this could be music, guns, footsteps, voices, any of that stuff. For the majority, it's all done really well, except for the guns. You know, I've never thought that the guns, one, played or sounded that great. We'll get into the played part of it later. But as a Hitman game, especially this Hitman game, you do not, of course, you can choose to, but you do not really use guns all that much. Now that I'm thinking about it, on my first playthrough of just the campaign level to level, I don't even think I fired my gun. But again, the guns don't sound great, but things like water dripping in the faucet whenever you overflow a sink, try to get a guard distracted, tossing a coin or any other kind of object when you smack people with a pipe or something, anything, all of that sounds great. Another thing I want to talk about is the NPC design within the levels, right? Typically within these types of big crowd type games, you can recognize similar people, similar models over and over again, similar outfits, well, I'm sure that is here. I didn't recognize that. I actually, while playing the game, saw specific characters and I was like, oh, I haven't seen that outfit before, I haven't seen that character model before, that's new, right? And that's something that the other two Hitman games haven't done. And again, well, I'm sure there are repetitive NPCs that you can find. I'm just saying that there aren't as many here as in the other Hitman games. Typically, I would devote an entire section to bugs, but being as I only had 2 bugs in my entire first run-through with this game, as long as you don't count some weird ragdoll physics bugs, if you count that as bugs, then you have a lot of bugs throughout this game, but that's kind of just how the Hitman games are. But regardless of those things, like I said, I only had 2 bugs. This first one, which I talked about in my first impressions video, where I needed to get Frisk to go into an area, and I emptied my entire inventory, every single item I could drop, everything except for the camera, which you literally cannot drop, and I still could not go into the area because the game said I had illegal items. Now, like I say in my first impressions video, I found a way around, so this isn't completely game breaking, but it was very annoying. There was another bug that I think is a bit more significant. And so, as you play these Hitman levels, you unlock new exits and new spawning locations and all of that. And so, a problem I had was a lot of the non-default exit locations just wouldn't work. I couldn't use them. I had to go through the default area. Any type of new exit I unlocked. But that's really the only two bugs I came across. I had textures not load in once, but again, it wasn't significant enough to bring up. So as far as I'm talking, this game is relatively bug-free. I'm sure on PC and last gen and everything, it runs completely different, but for my playthrough, it was relatively bug-free. So now it's time to talk about the actual gameplay of Hitman 3, what you're going to be spending most of your time doing, and why I think most people buy and play these games. So I decided what we're going to do is go through this on a level-by-level basis and just talk about each level and how it's designed, and we'll get into more complicated things from there. That's how we're going to start. So let's go to Dubai. So each level starts out with this planning phase where you choose where you spawn, what you bring, what you wear, a stashed weapon, you can look at challenges, all of that stuff. And as you progress and play levels and contracts and all that more and more, you level up more, unlocking new things to bring into the level, new starting locations for the level, all of that stuff. So that's kind of the end game here, right? You have all of these different options on how to kill the target that are more driven, I guess that's what you want to say about the game. They kind of give you hints as to what to do, but you can't obviously just go in there and shoot them in the face. But there are these game-driven events that you can choose, and there's plenty of them. And again, as you play the levels more and more, you unlock new and unique ways to kill people like a fish. And while we're talking about that, I personally, I haven't heard anybody else talk about this with the few Hitman 3 reviews that I've watched, but personally, I feel this is the hardest Hitman game that they've released. And maybe I'm just getting slow and old, but it's not difficult in a sense that the AI are better or you take more damage or do less damage or anything like that, but just as far as the mission stories and the guided assassinations. In Hitman 1 and 2, it was more get this disguise, get this tool, do this, the person dies, right? In Hitman 3, it's get this disguise, get this tool, figure it out. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, it's just different and makes the game a bit more difficult. So, looking through these levels, Dubai is probably my second favorite level in Hitman 3, and we'll go through that as we get there. It could be tied for first, it really depends. I'm focusing a lot of this on just that first time playthrough. I haven't gone through and done every single assassination on every single map. I've done a couple on each map just to get a feel for it. Obviously, I'm going to be doing more as I keep playing, but I just wanted to get a handful of them for this review. And so, something that isn't unique to Dubai, but rather all of the levels in Hitman 3, is not only are they large, but they're very vertical, right? I feel like Hitman 1 really had large levels, wide levels, right? And they maybe have one or two floors to them. Hitman 2 expanded on that. They made the levels even bigger with another, maybe a third or a fourth floor. Hitman 3, not only are the levels huge as far as width, but they're also very tall. I think the smallest level, other than the last level, and we'll get to that, is 4 floors, and some of them are like 7 or 8 or something like that. These maps are massive, right? So there's countless ways to kill your target. In Dubai alone, I've killed the targets 4 different ways, right? And so this is kind of how I'm going to rate the levels. This is how I break them down in my head, right? There's the design and the set piece of the level is the location cool, right? Do I like the location, just that atmosphere that the level has? And all of the levels, the atmosphere is really well set, it has good world building, all of that stuff, but I just prefer some over the other. And this Dubai mission reminds me a lot of the Paris mission from Hitman 2016. It's very similar and very different also in many different ways. And so the two primary assassinations, I guess that's what you want to call them, going left to right, is how I chose to do my story-driven assassinations. And so one, you disguise yourself as a security guard for this guy, a bodyguard. He has you do a throwing knife test, and then he stands too close to the ledge, and he kind of just falls off. Now, this is a problem, a recurring theme that is throughout the levels with that increased difficulty I was talking about, where in Hitman 1 or 2, it would have told you to push him off, right? Here, it has you become his bodyguard, and then that's it. You do the test of your own free will. You can just shoot him right in the face as soon as you get the disguise. It's not going to, force you into doing any specific kill here. And while this is good, it allows for more creative kills and all of that. It leads to a problem like with here. Again, it's the first level, so I didn't really know that's what they were going for. I was waiting for more instruction, and I wasn't really sure what to do. Eventually, I did figure it out, but I was kind of confused at first. That's one of those things that if it's your first time going through, and you're waiting for more instruction, thinking that the mission is broken, it's not. It just doesn't guide you as much as other Hitman games. Now, this one, just, disguising yourself as the bodyguard pushing him off the ledge, this is an okay assassination. I wouldn't say it's anything over the top or crazy. It's alright. Alright? The other assassination I chose to do for this first mission is you disguise yourself as having a meeting with this guy, and again, this is another one of those situations where it doesn't give you the bring the target to this room, no one's in this room, kill him. It just gets you to the restricted area. The rest is up for you to find out. So this is more of a sketchy kill for me, right? I kind of learned his rotation, took out the guards in the next room he was going to, and then took him out like that. The third and final mission story, that's what they're called, assassinations that you can do, that I did on my second playthrough of the game, is, in my opinion, the superior one. You get a key card and go hack some server room and all that stuff, and you get these two targets in the secure location, put down these security shutters, and then drop a fucking chandelier on them. Now, that is probably, in my opinion, the best one on this level. Again, it's totally up to you which one you prefer. But that's just going to show you the dynamic and fluid ways these levels can work, right? You have those three main story assassinations that are heavily guided, that they pretty much get you as close as they can get you to the kill without handing it to you, right? Then they have another 20, 15, 20, depending on the level, where they kind of hand feed you, right? They give you an idea of what to do, and then there's always the go in there and shoot them in the face your own way. And so there's just so many options for each level, and that's kind of where the replayability of Hitman comes in. And I realized, looking back, as Hitman 3 gives you access to the two previous Hitman games, if you own them, that Hitman always has, at least in my opinion, some okay levels. There's about 3 good levels in both Hitman 2016, 2, and 3. Right? There's some off levels, in my opinion, in each of them. But the second mission, the Manor mission, this ain't one of them. This mission fucking smacks. So for this mission, you're attending a fake funeral, and it's really complicated. I'm not going to get into the story of it, but there's, again, 3 main assassination storylines. So the one I did on my first time, and perhaps the best one, and again, if I had to rank this level, my problem with the Hitman levels, and it's not so much a problem, is the level's either really good or really bad, right? And so the Dubai mission, the Manor mission, my favorite mission I'll talk about later, they're all pretty much tied for first. I like them all a lot. And this mission has really cool assassinations. So the first one I did on my first playthrough, you're a detective, you're solving a murder within the family here at the Manor, right? And so you solve it, you figure it out, they give you this case file that you're here to get for solving the crime, and then someone just happens to, And so while that detective one requires the most work and time and effort put into the assassination, and I would definitely say is the main assassination of the level, what I do want to talk about is the other two, because they are both what I would call fun assassinations, right? They don't require that much work. For the one I'm showing you now, you just have to shoot a couple birds' nests, and then you just speed up her funeral a bit. But this one and the other one, again, aren't as long and fleshed out as the detective one, but they do open up an opportunity to have to get the case file yourself, right? In the last situation I showed you, it was handed to me in order for solving the crime. And these two, where you don't do the detective story arc, right? You have to get the file yourself, which results in this really interesting puzzle type system. And again, it's nothing insanely complicated, but you have to go around the room and look for these pieces and solve this code, and it's just really cool and unique. This level compared to the Dubai level is drastically different, right? And while I talked about how there's a lot of verticality in a lot of these maps, right? There's a lot more in the Dubai mission, right? This mission, I believe, has 4 floors, something like that. But there's a lot more detail, and everything's a lot closer together, right? With the party in Dubai, for example, everything's spread out, the map's so big, and there's so many different areas vertically and horizontally that you can kind of get away with some things, right? This map, everything's much more compacted within the manor, right? If you get into the garden, you can kind of sneak around and do your thing, but from within the manor, you really can't take too many people out without getting noticed. And so you really have to have a plan and have everything set up, and when you plan well, things like this happen.
Let's just get this done, shall we?
Chin up, Edward. No one wants to look at that long face.
You're such an idiot, Gregory.
I'm fine, Rebecca.
Fine. You look like a nervous wreck.
Stop bickering.
Well, Mother, you certainly know how to lighten the mood.
That's Madame Carlyle taken care of.
And so from there you go to this third mission, which is a German club, right? And this is my problem mission within this game, right? So for those of you that don't like direction and just want to be able to do your thing, you'll probably like this mission, right? This will probably be your cup of tea, right? For me, particularly, not a fan, right? They put you in this giant map, and this is just a huge vertical up and down staircase, essentially, right? It's not very big or as massive as the other maps, but it's very vertical, right? And they don't give you targets. They just say there's targets here. You don't know who they are. You just gotta find them. And so, for me personally, this level took me so long that it was so unenjoyable, right? I was running around all over the place. You don't know how many targets there are. You don't know where they are. I just did not enjoy this level as a whole. This is the bad level for me. A lot of people have said good things about this level, and if you like it, great, good for you. But for me, this just was not my level. So from here you go to an Asian country. I don't remember which one it is. And so on the top level, it's just a typical kind of slum within this country, right? They have a shop and restaurant and all that stuff, and homeless people running around and stuff. But once you get to the lower levels, it's this giant ICA high-tech facility, which is really cool. I've seen some really cool kills here. I just think when I played it, I just didn't do it right? I did something wrong that either broke the level, or I just did something wrong where people just wouldn't go, where I've seen other people make them go, right? I just couldn't get the level to function like it was supposed to. Now, I'm not saying this is a bad level, because this is a massive level, and just the design and what's going on within the level and the facility itself and all the security it has is really cool. I like it a lot. It's also a very difficult level because you need security clearance to get into practically everywhere. So I'm not saying this is a bad level, just within my experience, I didn't get the coolest outcome as compared to some of the other levels. For example, the previous third mission didn't really have any of those pre-planned assassinations, and this level seemed like it would have really cool ones just because of the design and just the set and the atmosphere around the level. And while there are some cool ones that I wasn't able to do, the one that I did do seemed kind of underwhelming, right? There's some kind of mind control experiment going on where you dress up as a homeless person and become a patient, and he tests it on you and you like overload the guy's mind or something. And while it sounds cool, it just wasn't presented very well, in my opinion. But again, there are some cool ones on this level that I won't spoil for people who haven't seen them, and I didn't do them, so I don't want to talk about them without showing them. But from here, we go to my favorite level, and this might be my favorite level, both visually and from a gameplay perspective. So this mission is the vineyard, I believe, in Argentina, and this mission is really cool. And maybe it's just because it has a sniper rifle in it, and I've never gotten or progressed far enough within the Hitman games to be able to use a sniper rifle. But I like this mission. This mission's cool, right? Not only does it look good because I'm a loser for freaking grass, alright, but it has the coolest 2 assassinations in this game, in my opinion. Alright, so the first one, and there are more that I haven't gotten to yet and won't show. The first one they do, there's a sniper team. They need identification in order to take out their target. And so you go and steal this earpiece from some of the other enemies, and you give them a little couple of Modern Warfare references to practice their sniping in on, and then you go find your target to persuade them to help you out.
Changed the fate of nations, altered the lives of millions of people.
It's called history, Burnwood. It has to happen.
Take the
It
shot.
can't
Over.
not happen.
Target is down. Over.
So I was already impressed visually going into this level, alright? Then you got that sick-ass sniper takedown, I was really impressed. And then you get another cool one. Now let me explain myself my war crimes here. This dude I needed to take out, he was in my way, he just would not move, so I kind of committed a war crime. Don't worry about it, he's not going to remember, alright? So he's dead, and now that he's taken care of, you loosen up all these outlets, and you break this pump over here, and it explodes and spills this wine all over the floor, alright? All over the floor with the whole facility. Now, not only does this look cool visually, because it looks like blood, but it also is just a really cool assassination. So after that mission, we lead into the final mission, which personally I feel like has to have some controversy behind it with the Hitman fans, right? Because I feel like there's a side of the fans that really like the guided and crazy over-the-top assassinations like myself, and then people that just want to do it their own way and, you know, come up with their own methodical kills, which is perfectly fine, whichever side of the camp you're on. But the final level, what it does is, for people like me who like points and like to do well, and, you know, stealthily only kill the target every level, and unfortunately have to knock out every single person. We can't just slaughter people because we want to get a good score and unlock more stuff and all of that. Well, this level, this was made for the crazy people like us, alright? They give you all the tools, all the weapons, everything, and they say, here is literally a straight line of enemies. Kill all of them, and we'll give you points for it. And you know, I've seen the argument that, oh, we got cheated out of like a big final level where, you know, you can have really more unique assassinations and not just, you know, shooting gameplay. And I kind of agree with that. I understand that point. But for me, for someone who plays through the whole game wanting to do this, but because of point restrictions can't do this, well, this is the perfect level. And this level does have some replayability. It's not just a straight line where you slaughter enemies the whole way through. There are secret passages and starting and ending locations to discover and unique weapons and all that stuff that you can get. But for the most part, right, it's just a slaughter everybody type of mission. And for me, I don't have a problem with it. This is great. It's one of those frustration relief levels, right? You had a rough day, you load up Hitman 3, load up the last level, and just commit a bunch of war crimes. Alright? So, for me, big fan of the last level. It's not my favorite. The Vineyard is still my favorite level, but that's just me. Alright, so now that we've gone through every single mission in Hitman 3, and this video is over 30 minutes long, let's go ahead and concentrate on a final score for Hitman 3. And being that my channel wasn't around when Hitman 1 and 2 came out, might as well score those while we're here now. So Hitman 1 was the return back to Hitman back in 2016. It had some really well laid out levels. It also had some not so well laid out levels. And I was looking through the levels last night, and I actually did break it down. There are exactly 3 good, perfect levels in each Hitman game, right? And so with that, it's really hard to rate them, right? But personally, for me, the meh levels in Hitman 1 are a lot less meh than the meh levels in Hitman 2. I know that's a totally professional analysis right there, but I just feel that Hitman 1 has a lot better levels, and I found myself playing Hitman 1, and maybe that's because it was new and all of that. I felt myself playing Hitman 1 a lot more than I played Hitman 2, right? I don't really remember doing any of the unique, you know, assassinations in Hitman 2. I played through the game once, and I don't think I really touched it again. Hitman 1, if I had to give it a score, I would put it at a 7, alright? Hitman 2, I kind of just talked about it, so I'd put that at a 6. Hitman 1 is good. Hitman 2 is above average, but it's not as good as the first. And where does that leave Hitman 3? So really, what you have to look at with Hitman 3 is the new levels. Are the levels themselves and the assassinations better than Hitman 1 and 2? Because gameplay-wise, I touched on this in my first impressions in video, and I really want to rant about it too much here. There's no new improvements to the gameplay, right? There's a couple of new gadgets and equipment here and there, but relatively it works all the same. It's just new maps. So that being said, the maps and the graphical improvements are really the only differences between previous Hitman games and this game. And so comparing the maps and going back and forth a lot, I am kind of stuck between giving this the same score of the first Hitman as good, or putting it at that 8 of a score of great. And you know what? I think I like a lot of these maps. This game has my least favorite and my favorite Hitman level in it, plus the middle and final level kind of cancel each other out, plus the massive amount of content here, along with ray tracing. Ray tracing is why I'm really giving it the extra point. So we're giving Hitman 3 an 8 out of 10, that score of great, alright? And mainly thinking about it, there's just so much content here. If you haven't played the Hitman games before, the first 2 were on sale, so if you pick up all 3 Hitman games, even the DLCs are on sale. I don't know how many DLC maps there are, I haven't played those, but just the core 3 games, you can probably get all 3 of them for $100 at this point, and that's probably, what, 18 maps, and just playing through them once, just one run through on each map, that'll put you around the same length of Hitman 3 at about 18 hours plus for the entire $100 experience. But that's just one run through. Part of the value of these games is that you can not only do them your own way, do them the way the game designed you to. There's player created contracts. There's so much stuff you can do here. That's why Hitman 3, an 8 out of 10.